Hello, welcome to my presentation on healthy aging. Before I start, I'd like to make sure that I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a doctor at all, actually. I'm an engineer, and I've been focusing on system level complexities in computers and machines, in software and hardware. And but more recently, for the last few years, I've been spending a lot of energy and time to understand healthy aging. And This presentation is going to cover some of those topics uh, with the disclaimers that I already shared. I hope you had a chance to see this before you came to this meeting. So, um, my background is there. um, and the abstract about the presentation already been shared. So what are the expectations in this meeting? What are we going to talk about, and what can you learn during this short duration? First of all, we all have to agree that longevity and healthy aging is a really big challenge. It's not something that we totally understand. There's a lot of research that's happening. Um, there's a lot to learn. And there's also some knowledge throughout the ages. Basically, humans were able to extend their lifespan. In the last 300 years, we were able to use antibiotics. We know how to use vaccines. We can do operations, surgery, and these are already they have already extended duration life durations from 50, 60 years originally to 80, 90 these days, beyond 80, beyond 80 on the average. But there's further advance possible. However, these additional advances I think are going to happen with personalized medicine. So you'll need to have your own background and your own life form, lifestyle, and genes. And genes are important, but also your lifestyle is epigenetics is very important also. How do you manage stress? How do you manage inflammation in your body? How do you minimize inflammation? How do you control other issues that we will talk about in this meeting? Um, so in the contents, there will be complexity of life. We'll talk about statistics of death, lifespan versus health span, legacy knowledge, recent progress, and then we'll go back to basics and talk about, these people that are making these research. And also, in the end, we will finish by what can we do individually? How can we improve our own capacity to live a healthier life and aging? So the complexity of life is out there, and one common ground we have with all animals is we are all multicellular, and we all have eukaryotes in our cells. We have mitochondria, that is a powerhouse, and that's what enables us to basically have a lot more energy compared to other life forms or plants. For example, they live longer, but they don't have capacity to move. We're able to move because we came up with evolution made us animals capable of using a lot more energy, and that's because of mitochondria became part of our cells. As you know, there is each cell has one nucleus, one set of chromosomes, but many mitochondria um, to create ATP for our cells. So knowing that animals are all similar to each other, how is it possible that some animals live longer than others, and what makes them different? So this chart is showing uh, why this is happening. as you get bigger, you are able to live longer. That's the general rule. And if you look at animals, they of bigger size, they live longer than animals of shorter size. Except for other animals that have a different solution, like they're able to fly, for example, and those who can fly are able to stay away from danger and they can extend their life duration in that approach. And I think the birds also have a different kind of mitochondria than ours, a little bit different in the sense that birds don't. For example, as they get older, they don't stop flying. They keep flying until the last few days, I guess. And then when they die, it's not because they cannot fly. They die because of some other reason, probably. So they have a different mitochondria than us. But we should more focus on mammalians and birds than birds, and we should more focus on mammalians because that's closer to humans. But when we just focus on humans, without any intervention, on the average, females live longer. Men that are shorter live slightly longer than other men. And then in women, taller people may have a little bit advantage to live longer compared to others. Of course, these are just statistics. I mean, your personal number will definitely be somewhere in the range, but then you may have numbers that are in reverse order. We're just talking about averages here. Another interesting thing is eunuchs, castrated men live longer than normal. I guess their masters, and these are from the records of Chinese and Korean dynasties throughout ages. They just look at their numbers who live longer, and they found out that their masters live shorter duration than the eunuchs serving these people in the palaces. I already mentioned bigger animals live longer. They have some special genes that are able to deal with cancer. Flying animals I mentioned already. Naked mole rats also live longer. Again, they have some special genes for cancer. In the lab, calorie restriction, that's what CR means. Calorie restriction animals in the lab live longer, not necessarily happier, but they live longer. And so these are basically by nature, just looking at certain facts. This is how we see differences. I wanted to cover it here. So multicellular life is like a dance, like a balance. You have each cell doing amazing things, and we have more than 200 types of cell in our body. Some of them helps us listen or view. Some of it is in our brain. Some of it is in our muscles, heart, our skin. Each structure, each cell is making a delicate balance, and it's funny because when they stop doing their role properly, that's where the dangers are coming, and then immune system comes and tries to put them back in line. And if the immune system is not able to put them back in line, that's where we end up with cancer and tumors and stuff like that. So those are the problems of. But as it's less likely to have these problems when you're younger. As you get older, evolution cares less about us in the sense that if we are older, we are less useful for proliferating the genes or the species. So, which means we need to worry about, how do we maintain our balance of these 200 types of cells in our body, different organs and everything. So that's where you may want to look at your percentage of risk in having a problem that's terminal. And this is what this statistics is talking about. In percentage, as you're younger, you have different risk. And as you get older, you have other risks and other problems in percentage. It's interesting to see that cancer is the biggest problem up to 65 or 70 years old, but then it becomes in percentage lower than other issues like cardiovascular or respiratory or neurological problems or diabetes, for example. Cardiovascular becomes bigger issue than cancer. Of course, this statistical chart is you know, only percentage wise, but in big numbers things are different in real numbers. If you look at you know, how many people die, you have fewer people dying uh, when you're younger, and then more and more people are dying as you get older. In women, there's a flip here between 65 and 84 years old. Men get terminally ill and die in bigger numbers than you know, 85 plus years, and then it's reversed for the woman. So it's interesting to understand your risk, your personal risk. You know, you want to understand if you have a problem potentially from the family with cancer or cardiovascular or neurological issues or other issues, diabetes and stuff. And you want to adjust your lifestyle accordingly because your genes are not everything. Even you know, when you have twins, one may end up with one illness and the other may not have that one, basically because of the lifestyle and epigenetics and how they, you know, how basically each one of us deals with that problem, basically. So what is the important topic that we're trying to cover today? It's how do we maintain fitness or functionality and avoid becoming frail as we get older? And this is basically the bigger topic that a lot of doctors are talking about. Um, and yeah, there are theories about aging. Um, uh, you know, the lifestyle is important for, like I mentioned, for improving your chances to live healthier and longer. The theories on aging was, you know, certain scientists was thinking, oh, there must be some programmed death in our genes. So the genes must, you know, by design, after a certain duration, they may want to basically stop functioning. That's not true. That's basically, you know, nobody believes in that anymore. That was proved incorrect. Um, Oxidation was an important, I guess, theory, and free radicals. Not really. These days, scientists don't think oxidation or free radicals are a key factor. Of course, they're important to some extent, but you know, it just became a big industry, money-making industry for selling stuff, food and drinks and everything. But there's no clue or no real proof that having these antioxidants will really extend your life duration. The other topic was telomeres, thinking that, okay, the number of times that the cell can divide is limited, so the telomeres are controlling. So if we extend the telomeres, we're able to extend the life. Again, that's found not really true. Telomeres are there to protect from cancer. If your cells do not you know, as they divide, if they start making more and more mistakes, you don't want them to keep staying alive. At some point, you want to control them. And there is something called some enzyme called telomerase. That enzyme helps extend the telomeres. So if you're doing exercise and healthy habits, you're able to generate some of these telomerase enzymes, potentially with fasting also. So I don't think telomeres are it's important in the health and life duration, but it's not the critical factor. these days, more and more people talk about cellular senescence and inflammation. Um, and um, I guess, again, it's multiple reasons why we get less functional as we get older. But definitely senescence and inflammation seems to be the hot topic these days. The rate of genetic mutations in DNA and mitochondria is also interesting, important. Um, the focus is mostly people talk about genes, they just focus about DNA, but mitochondria is another important genetic, and there's many per cell. There's one set of chromosome in each cell, but so many based on different type of cells. They have different number of mitochondria, and these are the powerhouse that generate energy, and that energy is needed for repair, is needed for growth or proliferation and stuff like that. And the trick is you want to really use most of these energy towards repair rather than growing at our age. You don't want to keep growing at our age. Basically, you want to repair. So you want to maintain your muscles, exercise, and repair with the exercise. So and then again, too much calories, too little exercise, definitely, and stress definitely speeds aging. And so these are also important parts in this domain. So legacy knowledge and beliefs about aging. Throughout centuries, many centuries ago, people were thinking there must be some fountain of youth. You could eat exotic animals, you could live longer, other ways of living longer. Those are all, of course, incorrect claims. Um, Food quality, herbs and spices and supplements, to some extent, is important, but it's not as long as you have enough vitamins and basics, you're not going to be living longer because you keep eating this or that. Most likely, you will live longer by not eating or doing some fasting and doing some exercising. And again, this is my opinion. You should talk to your doctor about these things. Um, Drugs and pharmaceuticals, yeah, maybe they are important, and there's more knowledge about that. But they can also lower the quality of life. Of course, if you have a chronic illness and your doctor recommends certain drug for a chronic illness, definitely you have to keep taking that drug regularly with the proper dose, and make sure you track your biomarkers according to that problem. But aside of that, generally exercise is good for you, social support structures and family is good for you, religion to some extent, spirituality or praying or meditation is important, interesting, good. Fasting, but fasting with time restricted eating, basically fasting around with the proper circadian rhythm. Don't stop eating few hours before sleep as much as possible. Don't eat after 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Don't eat after 6 p.m. Don't eat after 4 p.m., if possible. These are going to improve your sleep quality, and sleep will help you improve your repair capability in the cells. Fasting will help you repair capability in the cells, and exercise will help repair capability. Um, Social structure, social support is important. And the mindset about aging, you want to have a positive mindset about aging and being old is important. And I guess the last sentence on, the last topic on this slide is the delaying the onset of chronic illness is a common goal for all researchers these days, or all doctors are agreeing on this. Chronic illnesses, to the extent you can delay them, you'll have a better chance of having a healthier lifespan. So what is recent progress on the biology of aging? The latest research in last 10, 20 years, more and more energy and money is being spent on cell level research. Um, for example, Dr. Sinclair has worked on yeast, and he was able to prove certain supplements or certain uh, chemicals or drugs or were able to extend the lifespan of these animals. Um, then there is, of course, a lot of research in the labs with mice and rats. Of course, the problem is these mice and rats are specially bred with special genes, most likely close to each other, because they're living in the labs and are different from the animals that are out there in the nature. But I guess with some protocols, we're able to extend their lifespan 20%, 40%, even more in some cases. So there is good progress on those research. Um, Other animals, there is a doctor working on dogs. It's called DAP, Dog Aging Protocol, Dr. Taberlane. Um, he is trying to use rapamycin, which is a special senolytic. Senolytics are basically trying to extend senescence. Senescence is when the cells become dysfunctional to a certain extent, but they're not cancerous. They may turn into cancer, but they're also able to avoid cancer by staying senescent. Um, and there are drugs that are trying to, control the number of senescent cells, and one of those drugs is called rapamycin. It's also an immune suppressant drug, controls the immunity. So there's already a trial, and people believe that this can add few years on the average to everybody's life duration. Who knows, maybe 10% longer or 15% longer. These are possibilities. There's another trial called um, um, the TAME, metformin trial, and I will talk about that a little bit later. But well, the thing about animals and cells, all this research came up with a list of mechanisms that are causing aging at the multicellular level. We are all multicellular animals, and the problems are related to stem cell exhaustion, cellular senescence, mitochondrial dysfunction, nutrient sensing problems, uh, making bad proteins, incorrect proteins folding, epigenetic alterations, telomeres, genomics instability, all these communication problems between cells, all these are hallmarks of aging, and they came from all these lab research, and it's common to us as well. But we have additional things that plays a role in our longevity: hormones and social support and habits. These are also very important for longevity. So it's there's research talking about cell level knowledge, recent knowledge, but then also legacy knowledge is important. Um, and habits are especially important, and I can recommend books about this, um, uh, because you can have good habits and bad habits. Um, and if you're able to maintain a habit is usually something that you keep doing with less stress because you're used to doing it and you don't have stress about it. So if you can come up with more healthy habits, you're going to improve your chances of staying healthier longer. And that's an important topic. I will not, I guess, go more on this topic. This can be a separate presentation, but for now, I will keep focusing on research and biological topics, basically. So recent research about longevity, and again, these are early stages mostly. There are some interventions or trials or cures that's already proposed. Something called parabiosis. They stitch together an old and a young mice, and they realize that some of the organs in the old mice became younger, and vice versa, basically. So they realize that there must be something in the blood that makes some rejuvenation capability. So there is some research in that called neutral blood exchange or therapeutic blood exchange. These are trials. Um, there is NAD boosting supplements. As we get older, our mitochondria starts declining in their functionality. So NAD boosting supplements are important or interesting. Something called NMN. Dr. Sinclair talks about this in his book. There are other supplements or drugs like metformin and berberine. These control the blood sugar levels, so it's important to maintain, blood sugar to a certain range so that you can avoid diabetes or cancer in the long run. IGF and immune system related, substances like rapamycin and rapalogs I mentioned, dog aging protocol from Dr. Kaberlein. With this senolytic, with this rapamycin, they're able to control the IGF. And once you're already in adult years, you don't need to grow anymore. You just need to recover your muscles if you're losing muscles. And I guess the right way to go about that is stop animal proteins and start, healthy food like cruciferous and olive oil and avocado oil, healthy fats, um, almonds and nuts and stuff like that are key in some of these things. So I mentioned senolytics. Senolytics is about senescence. Senescence is, I mentioned already that the cells start partially functioning and they become senescent. They're not bad in the sense that they're not going into cancer mode. They're still partially functional, but they cause inflammation. And so there are some trials trying to limit the number of senescent cells, or maybe fasting helps get rid of these by something called autophagy. If you're fasting long enough, your body starts getting rid of or cleaning these senescent cells. There are other therapies, hot cold sauna. There's something called rejuvenation at cell level, Yamanaka factors. This is basically very like interesting. A lot of people have lots of hope on this, but it's very early days. There are lots of companies and big dollars being spent on these partial reprogramming. One example is in lab rats. They're able to repair vision for old animals, or actually damaged animals. So they have an animal, they damage on purpose the vision, and then they're able to repair it by providing a virus that goes and partially reprograms these cells to make them younger. And they're able to do that in live animals. That's interesting. Going and reprogramming the genes of a living animal is key, and that's what these companies are trying to do. There's also some research on transgenic organ implants. So they take human genes, inject some of that into some of these animals, and try to come up with organs that can be transplanted into humans potentially. So these are all early stages, risky operations at different levels of risk. Um, and I gave already an example with Dr. Barzilai doing TAME on metformin and berberine, blunting the sugar levels in blood, and then rapamycin dog aging protocol trial, trying to measure the improvements in life duration and also the quality of life during that time. Another interesting topic is measuring the epigenetic aging. The Horvath clock can be measured in each different types of cells. We have a Horvath clock methylation. This is a scientific term, but this is very closely able to tell your age based on those numbers. Numbers are not only working for humans but also for animals with Horvath clock. There are you may have your calendar years. You may be, I don't know, 60 years old based on your birth date, but you may have a different Horvath clock rate in some of your organs, and you may age slower or faster based on that. So I think that's quite accurate as a clock. And if somebody is going to do these research on some of these supplements or other things, they want to measure these clocks before and then after the duration of the experiment. There are other markers that we can track: blood test biomarkers, Morgan-Levine test, blood work based true age, for example. And then in the future, there will be other kind of ways to measure the aging. And they will be related probably to mutation rates, somatic mutation rate against the stem cell. So stem cells have less mutation. They maintain their original information, but the specialized cells usually may have more mutation, or the organs may have more mutation. So you can compare a stem cell and an organ and understand how much mutation happened through your life duration. And so these are new ways to measure aging that may end up helping qualify that you're making a certain experiment or lifestyle change or certain operation. You want to measure things before and after, and these are the interesting new metrics to track. So going back to basics, I mentioned Dr. Fontana is doing basically focusing on both legacy knowledge and recent biological advances. I am definitely recommending his book. If you can get the book and read about it, or you can also look for his presentations on YouTube. I've listened to his presentations in Italian because I speak Italian, and helps me remember my knowledge about Italian. I also read his book in English, and some of his presentations are in English. So he's definitely a key guy for me for longevity, because he's making a good mix and match between what works throughout ages and what may help within recent knowledge. And so in this slide, all these topics, your genes are important, but your lifestyle and epigenetics is going to be key on controlling your problems. Calorie intake is important. Fasting is important, but you want to do fasting based on the circadian clock. Basically, improve or reduce calories before sleep. You don't want to be eating. You want to be fasting a few hours as much as possible. More hours the better before you sleep. You want to control your protein intake. If you're growing and you're still making muscles, fine. You need animal proteins. Most likely, you need milk and other kinds. Cheese and stuff like that. But if as you get older, you don't want to basically create too much growth hormone, and proteins create growth hormone. You want to stay, I guess, away from animal protein and focus on plants to recover your protein. If you're doing fasting, you're going to lose some muscles, so you will need some protein to recover. Physical exercise will help you, maintain your mitochondria in good shape. Cognitive training will help your mind stay on top of things. Pollution or medications, to the extent you can stay away from pollution. Medications, you want to take them as you need based on your doctor's recommendation, but not more than that. Sleep and meditation is key. Vitamins are important. Probiotics are important. But in my mind, sunshine, physical exercise, sleep, those are very important. And then fasting, to the extent that you can do fasting without stress. Of course, stress is key. You don't want to be miserable and trying to follow certain things that thinking that it's going to be helpful to you. It's not going to work. So you want to maybe control your stress, more important than controlling calories. There are other mechanisms that Dr. Fontana is talking about. Again, exercise and reduced calorie intake, lower protein intake, high dietary fiber. These are all good habits. In addition, I will add low stress and some amount of sunshine, not too much because you don't want to have a skin cancer. Exercise is important. Here's some more slides from his presentations. And I mentioned about mitochondria. Exercise is the most important thing for mitochondria, and then maybe some supplements like niacin or NMN, but there's no proof yet that these supplements are really extending your life duration, but they may help in life quality while you're taking them, as long as as long as you talk about it with your doctor and understand that there may be some risks in some of these supplements. So you have to look at your own condition because each one of us is different. Some supplements or some lifestyle that works for one person may not work for others. And of course, Dr. Fontana talked about nutrition, exercise. Exercise triggers repair mode in the body. Deep sleep triggers repair. It helps your cognition, maintain quality information and knowledge, all of these things. So I mentioned a number of leaders in the longevity field. Here are the recommended books. You can offline look at this list, and if you have questions, let me know. I can try to help you with this. I guess you need to understand your own situation. What is your high risk level for what kind of sickness or issues in the family or your lifestyle may basically maintain may require different kinds of interventions or different kinds of knowledge. For example, if you have Alzheimer in the family, there may be a little bit higher risk of that. What would you do to improve that? Well, there's a book here around that. Cancer, there's a book about it. The diet, longevity diet. I like Dr. Jason Fung for his books. Dr. Walter Longo is interesting. Dr. Sapolsky, he's a great researcher. Matthew Walker, his book is great about sleep. understanding sleep. And then the dopamine nation, like habits, is very important. You want to improve your habits, and you want to reduce your bad habits, basically. So, as a final slide, yeah, it's interesting to understand all these research and biological mechanisms, the progress that's happening out there with companies. Of course, they always try to create a hype. They try to make you buy their supplements and stuff like that. So you want to be careful about that. I personally, I'm using some of these things, but I try to focus more on my lifestyle by exercising, doing fasting regularly, staying engaged socially, and then mindset is important. You want to be at peace with yourself, and you want to have a positive thinking, and that will make you feel better about yourself. So try to stay engaged, try to see your doctor, be stoic, keep an occupation, garden or animal or a pet. As you get older, you want to basically care for somebody, someone, some animal, some plant, something that will need you, and that need from that animal or plant will give you, I guess, control and capacity to stay engaged, and that's important. Meditation is important. Sunshine is important. Sleeping in a dark place is important. So these are all topics I wanted to cover today. I think that's the final slide. I have some additional slides that talks about inflammation, growth hormone, the different models for longevity, but and then the new food pyramid. It's basically, with recent knowledge, you want to control the amount of sweets and meat and cheese and eggs and fish. You want to have less of that as you get older, but try to get more of these vegetables and whole grains and legumes and olive oil and nuts and yogurt. And then you want to see your doctor regularly for medical tests, once or twice a year. And then there are certain biomarkers to track, your BMI, your LDL, and CRP. These are all interesting metrics that your doctor should be looking to regularly, and measuring as a measure of biomarkers for your health, basically. I guess this is the end of my presentation, and then we can start talking about the questions.